Yesterday, there were big headlines in the newspapers. Supreme Court pulls up governor of Tamil Nadu. And of course, the usual noise in the media, all the noise and the engineered destruction that is there in the social media everywhere. They don't want you to think. They only want headlines. They want you to just process as though you're mentally so deficient. They want to process, they want you to process only the bare matter. That's it. And then you go on to the next headline. This is an age of engineered destruction. This is an age where you are not allowed to concentrate a little while. And yet I would like to say that this is the essence of our thinking process. This is the basic faculty. That is, say, when I say something or when you read something, after reading just a little, after hearing me speak just a little, allow your mind to think, to pause, to think. You do not have to agree with me immediately. You do not have to disagree with me immediately. You can take your time to think. That is the way it ought to be. That is the way all good listening ought to be. After these very brief introductory remarks, let me get to the subject. This subject of the governor's powers, I have dealt with this subject and related subjects on the Constitution in quite a number of videos, I think at least 2 or 3. So, but when it comes like this, I would like to do exactly what I said just now. Think a little, go back a little and see how it is. Now, how did it come to such a pass that the highest court of this country has to intervene on a very fundamental matter, most basic matter of the working of the Constitution, and that too 75 years after we adopted the Constitution? This is something that really must bother every one of you. This is so fundamental a matter. I tell you why. According to the Constitution, the legislature means the governor and the legislative assembly, and if there is a legislative council. Therefore, to have a situation where the legislative assembly duly passes a bill and sends it for assent to the governor, and the governor starts thinking on his own and becomes a power center of his own, that is not contemplated in the Constitution, and I will tell you why in a moment from now. But since I think I should go back a little on the working of the Constitution, I would first like to say that the persons who have worked the Constitution from the time it was adopted have not lived up to the expectations that were there, or to the expectations of those who drafted the Constitution. This is the sad truth. Dr. Ambedkar, when everything had been done, when tremendous amount of work and labor had gone into the working of the Constitution, and just about every article of the Constitution was debated by very good, eminent people who constituted the drafting committee of the Constitution and who presented it to the Constituent Assembly, which also consisted of very eminent people. After all this labor had been done, the drafting had been done, Dr. Ambedkar was presenting the final product to the Constituent Assembly in a very solemn moment. This was the final speech of Dr. Ambedkar while presenting it to the Constituent Assembly for its formal adoption, because the Constituent Assembly also doubled as a parliament of sorts. This was it. And it was on November 1949 that he was presenting this. You have to read it with some emotion, really, and therefore I would read it for you. I've got it here, right there. You must go back to November 25, 1949. All the work had been done and he was presenting the Constitution to the Constituent Assembly, saying this is the result of our labors, and here we have a beautiful Constitution. These words sound prescient now. However good a Constitution may be, it is sure to turn out bad, because those who were called to work it happen to be a bad lot. Look at these words, that he thought about this with so much prescience, so much of honesty in that. The Constitution can provide only the organs of state, such as the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. The factors on which the working of these organs depends on the people and the political parties they will set up as their instruments to carry out their wishes and their politics. Therefore, you have a framework. You should have good faith in the working of the Constitution. There should be good men who work the Constitution. The Constitution is good, but the people who work it may not be good. That is the message. And indeed, this has happened. The Constitution has been reduced. I am not talking about this event or the Tamil Nadu governor. That's why I want you to go back a little and see this whole thing. How the Constitution, which was presented with so much honesty and fervor, has been reduced to a scrap of paper. The rot set in mainly during Indira Gandhi's time. Going back a little, after we adopted the Constitution, the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru had the spirit of the Constitution in the appointments made to the governor's post, or even in the nomination of the candidature to the president. Why do I bring in the president? Our Constitution is based on the Westminster model. That is the British Constitution. And the relationship between the President and the Prime Minister and his cabinet is replicated at the state level in the relationship between the governor and the chief minister and his cabinet. This is the scheme. It is not as though the governor's role is different. It is the same scheme. And in the constitutional debates, it is very clear that the president and therefore also the governor, what happens to the president, what also applies to the governor. The president is this symbolic, ceremonial head of the republic, of the union. He is the republic head of the republic, head of the union. The governor is the head of state. This is similar. This is all in the scheme of the constitution. And I think even a primer on the constitution will come out with this thing. Look at this. During Jawaharlal Nehru's time as the Prime Minister, the President, the head of the Republic, was Dr. Rajendra Prasad. He was presiding over the Constituent Assembly, great man, well known. And therefore, in every way, fit to be the President of India, President of the Republic. Let me tell you this, that when I say that we have borrowed exactly from the Westminster model, the sovereign, that is president, same thing, sovereign in Britain, the British sovereign, the British monarch, never interferes in any way in the matter of running of the government, the legislature or anything like that. The duties not stated anywhere, because that is British Constitution is a constitution based on conventions. There is no written constitution. The right to be consulted, the right to be consulted, the right to advise, the right to advise, the right to warn if there is anything. This is the way it is. Therefore, if the right to be consulted, the right to advise, the right to warn is there, unwritten at that constitutional convention, you can't put anybody as the president. Therefore, it should be that the president or the governor should be of such a stature. The right to advise, the right to warn. And indeed, in the beginning of the Republic, we had a president like Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and after that, Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, philosopher and all that. For a few years, things were okay because all the presidents were great people who had that stature, people who could be called, they are the ceremonial head of state, the symbolic head of the republic, symbolizing the republic. But soon deterioration set in. Why do I speak about the president when it is about the government? I am saying that this is exactly the scheme. You can't put anybody there. The whole thing became a little bit messy when a politician working under Indira Gandhi, who had been quoted as saying that if Indira Gandhi asked me to take a broom and sweep the floor, I will do it immediately. That person was nominated as the president. Thereafter, if you look at that, not much care has been given to the personality who should become the president. And the rot set in at the time of Indira Gandhi. Of course, that is history. But look at all those personages. I am not making any aspersions on anybody, but the care with which you select people, that has not been there. And this went further. we're coming now to the States. We're coming now to the States. I remember in the early days, I remember it very, very much because this was 1950 and all that. And, you know, I was still young and looking at it. The governors of the states were great men in their own right. Just out of memory, I'm saying these things. Dr. Patabi Sitaramaiah, I think he was governor of Madhya Pradesh. Sarojini Naidu, governor of West Bengal. I was coming near this in Madras, at that time Madras, Sri Prakasha, Andhra, C.M. Trivedi, Kerala, Dr. B. Ramakrishna Rao. All of them really fitted into what was expected of the head of state, of the state, the head of the union, the head of state. All those personages. I gave you some names, C.M. Trivedi, lots of those people that time. And now, after some time, this principle was given the go-by. Any politician, anybody could be just nominated and become governor. One of the things that really stands out is I think it was 1984 when some Congress politician, Ram Lal, was nominated as the president, as the governor of Andhra Pradesh. And he dismissed NTR, N.T. Ramarao's government. N.T. Ramarao's government had majority in the assembly, but he dismissed it on some ground. NTR was, I think, outside the country in the United States for a medical procedure. And he came, soon after the medical procedure, he came and had to parade his MLAs before the president. Of course, Ramlal had nominated some kind of a stooge there whose government lasted only for 30 or 31 days, and NTR was reinstated because that is obvious that the legislature was there, and yet although he enjoyed a majority, Ramlal, the governor, dismissed him, dismissed the government of NTR. Now things had gone so low. What I am trying to, if I give you all the kind of denigration of the office of the governor and using that governor's post as a kind of the place where any politician can be posted, that is a long story. But then, get back to Dr. Ambedkar. The constitution may be good, but if the people who work the constitution are not so good, then don't blame the constitution. The constitution's working will turn bad. This is the situation that we have. Therefore, what I am saying is that when we try to isolate all this event and say the Supreme Court intervened and all that, we have to remember that this has been a process. This has been a process since the time of Indira Gandhi or even a little earlier. This whole thing of not respecting the requirements of the post. These things cannot be written down, you know. Who should occupy the president's post? Who should occupy the post of the governor of a state? These things have gone by, have been forgotten, and anyone is put in there. So that is the background of this whole thing. that not only in this matter, but in other matters too, the spirit, the requirement of a certain provision in the Constitution has been given a go by. We have been far too clever in the working of the Constitution. So that's how the background is, that this judgment of the Supreme Court, which was there as they made headlines everywhere, is emblematic of what has happened over these, shall we say, 30 or 40 years of the Constitution, where the constitutional provisions and the spirit of the Constitution have been ignored. That is a matter of very great disappointment, because it reminds us of Dr. Ambedkar's words that the Constitution depends on good men working with the spirit of the Constitution in mind. This has not happened, and this one incident is not the only incident. If you look back, look at that whole thing. The Constitution should not be reduced to just a piece of paper. And this is what has happened and may continue to happen.